of Martial Insight and Advice. Sitting here with Tommy Rondeau Sensei. I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. I hope you enjoy it as well. We're in Blue Water Sushi, located in Ludlow, Mass. Phenomenal artistry. I encourage you to come on out, check it out. I don't know what you're missing. So, as you know, I like interviewing unique individuals within the martial community. So we're going to dive right into some questions. First, if you just introduce yourself and give them some insight into your martial background.
First of all, it's my pleasure, and I want to thank you for listening and viewing this. Again, my name is Tom Rondeau. I've been training martial arts since 1980. It's taken me all over the world, and it's taken me to places I never thought I'd go. I started out with Taekwondo and Hapkido with the Jay Parks organization here in the Springfield area. And later on in high school, I got into judo, which really was and still is my passion. It took me all the world. I was able to train in Japan, I was able to train in Europe, and I was able to train in other areas and just meet a wonderful community of people. Today I more focus on the spiritual side of the martial arts, or the martial way, or Budo. And that is really where I'm at today. So I'd love to share any insights and answer the questions that Randy has.
Thank you. Let's just go with what motivated you to begin your martial journey?
Actually started with my father. My father served in the Marine Corps and was a bodybuilder. And I was always interested in strength. So I always liked watching my father train and being big and getting strong. And I realized later on that wasn't everything. My father gave me a book, Masoyama, This is Karate. And I remember looking at the pictures and just wonder and amazement as to what this really could be and what this way of life could be like and what it entailed. Because I realized at a young age that strength really wasn't enough. Just because I was strong and dealing with kids in the neighborhood, just because I was strong doesn't necessarily mean I was skilled or I would be able to defend myself. It helped, but there was so much more to it. And looking at that book and the pictures within that book just gave me a whole another worldview.
How did he come about the book? Did he train?
He got a little bit of it when he was in the Marine Corps.
Oh wow! Back then, they didn't have the Marine Corps martial arts system, so they had their basic hand-to-hand. And did he travel to other countries and delve into schools, or was it strictly the Marine Corps?
It was strictly the Marine Corps. I got to figure he was in late 50s. And that's a whole, and in the complexion of the Marine Corps and what the Marine Corps looks like today as to what it was in the 50s, by his own admission, and what he experienced is very different. So
absolutely,
yeah.
Wow, that's great. Well, we thank him for introducing you to that book. That was good. So, with that being said, how do you stay motivated to continue your education?
I stay motivated by looking at aspects I didn't get in the initial part of my martial way, my martial journey along the way. It was more towards the aspects of Zen, Mushin, those concepts that we really don't hear about in martial circles today, except maybe with yourself and a few others. We talk about Mushin, Shingi Tai, the technique, the body, and the mind coming first, mind, body, and then mind, technique, and then body. We don't really talk about those things today, or Mizuno Kokoro, where we talk about having a mind like water in combat. Those type of things are really what I'm focused on today. I worked on the physical skills, but I need to also realize I need to work on the spiritual, not only religious. It's not the religious thing. It's more towards the real spirit of Budo, the martial way, the code of Bushido. Those things are what really keeps me motivated today to stay focused on my martial journey.
how much of that guides your life?
It's
It's
part of my DNA.
absolutely.
It really is. It's part of my
Absolutely.
DNA.
I think that's what people need to hear more. Um, it'll come back around in a later question. Is there anything? Well, how has your martial journey enhanced and/or affected your life?
I would say at this point, looking backwards, it affected my journey and my life in terms of community. Martial community is much larger than what we think it is. The warrior way, the martial code is much larger. And we tend to be very provincial in terms of where we train and who we associate with. My way was to go out internationally and just find the best people that I could train with and see what they had to offer. And it always taught me four things. And it could be any one of the four. Either, number one, it confirmed what I knew or how good I was. It expanded what I knew or maybe how good I thought I was. It challenged what I knew or how good I thought I was in training.
Wow.
Or it taught me something I had never considered before. And that's expanding the martial arts. It's martial family. It's martial community. And I mean, there's ego and there's swagger and there's all those things when you step into another dojos, those things happen. I get that. But when we go there with a spirit of humility and a spirit to learn and a spirit to, foster your self-development in that community, the relationships build muscle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you find being out there, more people were accepting than not?
That's a great question. Initially, no. Especially as a foreigner coming in. In Europe, it wasn't so bad. I remember training for a session at the University of Venice, doing judo at the University of Venice.
Oh, wow.
And there was, Randy, if I was at that time when you knew me, I would, anywhere on vacation, I took my gear wherever I went. So if I had a chance to go to a dojo to train to roll around, I would do it. And I had the chance to train at the University of Venice, and that was fine. But when I went to Japan, it was different initially.
Yeah.
Initially,
Yeah.
but then if you're there with that right spirit, the right attitude, and the humility, and to give your all on the mat, no reservations, and to endure some hardships in terms of the training.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
They look at you differently. They saw you through a different lens at that point.
Wow. Little
T.
Wow. Is there anything you wish you had done differently in reference to your martial journey?
Great question. Simple question, a little complicated, at least the way I'm processing it and the way I think about it. In a very practical sense, I wish that I started my grappling education much earlier. I ended up getting into an altercation in high school when I started out as a stand-up guy. And it was great until it wasn't. Until you get to the ground, I realized I had a hard time. And I realized, there's something I am not familiar with. There's something I need to expand upon. Came out okay, obviously, but it was a very humbling experience, and I wish I had started my grappling game earlier. On the other aspect of it, I'm not sure I would change anything differently because I wouldn't be who I am today, right now. It's all part of the process.
Very insightful right there. Yes. I definitely agree with that. Changing things, and it would have a ripple effect.
Yeah. Would you be the same person?
Yeah.
It begs the question. Maybe not. It begs that situation. Maybe I might be different, or maybe I might be better, or maybe taking on a different course of action.
In training, what is your personal goal? And as a teacher within the correctional setting, as well as in dojos, as a high-ranking representative of the martial sciences, what do you endeavor to impart to your students?
I want to serve the future. I want to serve the future in terms of.
I like the way that sounded. Yeah.
I want to serve the future because what I've obtained, what I have attained, or anything that has been given to me in terms of knowledge, insight, experience, I would be remiss and actually negligent if I didn't pass that forward to those who come behind me. Because, and I had an instructor, Frank Lindsay Sensei, and he ingrained that in me, and I never forgot. He goes, if your students are not better than you at the end of it, then you failed as a teacher. And that's a hard thing for people to swallow. And I understand that's controversial because it is. But at the same time, nothing will progress, nothing will ever expand, nothing will ever come to its fullness unless the people behind you carry it forward past where you have been.
Indeed. Wow. Well said. Well said. Wow. This is why interviews like this are so valuable. Wow.
Can't let as martial artists on the way, the martial way, the warrior's code, Bushido, we cannot let it die with us.
Indeed. Indeed.
Buried treasure is just that, it's buried.
Okay. Do you think people value skills, put too much value in skill as opposed to understanding? Or information?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. It really is, because the skill is what, in terms of the commerce, the business of martial arts, that's what people tend to pay for. I want to learn something. I want to know something. I want to be better. I want to be able to defend myself in this application. And so, yeah, technique and expanding on technique and learning technique has value. But I think, and now speaking for myself, where I was deficient and I had to go get it on my own, and another thing that I possibly wish I had, possibly, is the part of shin, the mind. Mm-hmm. Mind training. And Kancho Kudo talks about that a lot, training the mind. And as a young martial artist, it was like,
doesn't resonate.
What? Doesn't what? What? But as you get older on the martial way and more experienced on the martial way, you realize that's what drives everything.
Yeah.
It's when your mind and your heart, that warrior spirit, that fighting spirit, is molded and cultivated into who you are, and then it comes through in your technique. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I remember I didn't get that. So what I did was I went to a Zen monastery for a session, and that was to train the mind, because I always knew that Zen and the samurai and the martial way were very intricately connected. And those lessons I learned at that session actually carry over to today. Wow. And that was years ago. So training, so the technique has value. Yeah, we have to train technique. Mm-hmm. But martial arts is much more, but it's a way of life. It's a way of living.
Kudo Sensei said to me one day, I had asked him, he's 84 years old. So I had asked him one day, when he was probably 80, I said, how much do you actually physically practice right now? He said, I wake up, I throw some kicks, I throw some punches, I move around. I said, well, how do you keep your timing sharp? He said, my experience is my timing.
Great question. Great answer.
When he said that, my experience is my timing. He said, there's nothing I haven't seen. He said, I've experienced so much within this world that nothing is new to me, and I can adjust to it. That was powerful, and it speaks on his mind.
In training and in combat, it has to be a sense of composure and stillness in the face of possibly death.
Yes.
Composure and stillness, and technique itself, or the training technique, doesn't really address that part of it.
Yeah, it's yeah. Wow. Oh. Wow.
I'm enjoying that. I just love having this conversation with you. You know, I learned so much from talking to you. Just this process.
My mind's working overtime right now. So if you hadn't noticed, I'm kind of taken aback by some of these responses because it's opening so many doors in my mind that will no doubt enhance my training. Thank you. How does your training differ from the time you began as opposed to nowadays?
When I first started, everything was very regimented, and I think it's just an experience thing. I didn't have the requisite knowledge to establish the connections. But as I became more experienced and worked within a greater community of martial artists and seeing what other people had to offer and their perspectives, I was able to make links and connectors between why I did what I did and why it was important to do it a certain way. So with that, I remember training at 5 years old, right? I was at the YMCA, and I remember doing kicks, and I think I was probably a little too young then. In fact, I know I was. Anyway, so we're doing front kick, and I remember front kick. I remember everything as if it was yesterday. And then it was like, do a rear kick, and they taught me the rear kick. I'm thinking to myself, why do I want to kick someone behind me? I want someone in front of me, but I'm 5 years old, right? So why would that be important? And so again, it's the youthful mind that doesn't have the capacity to understand the connections. Now, being more experienced, I see things differently in terms of how they connect with everything else in terms of technique and martial way.
From a fan's point of view, whose martial acumen do you most admire? Let's break it down even further. Let's say on a judo / jiu-jitsu standpoint, whose martial game do you most admire and martial mind? And say a karate or overall realm, stand up, whose game do you most admire?
Wow, great questions. Well, you know, I'm going back old school a little bit. You know, when I think judo grappling game, I think Isao Okano, who Kancho speaks about. He's in the movie Budo. Mat work genius, just a genius and super strong. Could beat heavyweights at an elite level, even though he was.
All you new wave students right now, so heavy on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and all those other things, look up these names.
Yeah, Isao Okano, Vital Judo. It's even in print anymore, and you may not be able to get it. Vital Judo Grappling Edition and Vital Judo Throwing Edition. Masterpieces, man. And he's just someone I just look at and watch and look at the pictures and see old videos. It's like incredible. Even old pictures, still photos, amazing. Stand-up game. That's a great question. I really have to say that I haven't really focused on the stand-up game that much. I have to be honest with you. Lately, you know, in terms of who I would.
One of mine, stand-up game. Superfoot Bill Wallace. I don't know if you've ever.
Absolutely.
That man, I get the shivers every time I think. I've trained with him like 3 or 4 times. But one thing always reminded me of, or one thing I think about a lot. He was doing a seminar, and this guy kind of challenged him at the seminar. And you would expect Superfoot Bill Wallace to kick him, but all he did was box him, and his hands were so phenomenal. It's incredible. He has a judo background, wrestling background, boxing background, and karate background. So he was pretty well-rounded, you know. But yeah, definitely. Okay. Uh, what's more important to you when it comes to, let's say, taking a student, you get a student who is a natural and picks things up immediately, understands them, shows great promise, 2-year span, right? Been training with you and is equivalent to most black belts, right? So time, what's more important to you? Time in training or one's ability to satisfy the curriculum and understand the material and be able to execute? So if you know, are you the type, like say in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they say a 10-year average people, it takes them to earn a black belt. If somebody comes to you and they're showing that skill and understanding in a year, in 2 years, would you reward them or would you make them wait the 10?
Great question. Wow, there's a lot of variables to that question. I think both are related. I go back to my judo days in judo competition where there's a term, I think it's called batsugan, where someone can go into a tournament at one rank or one level, and then if they basically smash and run through everyone, you know, there's a promotion based on they're beating the competition at a higher level. So actually that happened to me, my first judo tournament. Went in and went through it, but my previous martial art background helped. There's no question. But I was able to go through that first tournament, and next time in dojo, I was promoted right off the rip.
Wow.
But I think it's important in that context to keep in mind that just because someone is very good at technique and can basically beat the field does not necessarily make them suitable for promotion. And I take this world view of it. Because promotion is not just about wearing the belt, it's about who you are as a person. Or do you have a level of maturity that goes along with the rank you hold? Because it's not just the martial way in terms of the dojo, it's a martial lifestyle. So I look at it from a much broader perspective. Yeah, in terms of competition and tournament and your acumen and how you're running through one, that's great. And there's a place for promotion there. But in terms of what that represents, are you mature enough to hold that rank? Do you represent that rank well? And so there's a whole other aspect of martial maturity that goes into a promotion from my perspective.
Good. Again, let me think. Okay. Now we come to the part of the interview where I ask, along the title of the show, what insight and/or advice would you give to someone wanting to begin his or her martial education and/or competition career?
Oh. Pursue it with reckless abandon. Be wholehearted towards it. If that's what you want, you go out, you get it, and you just, I think of Kancho. Kancho good, right? If it's good for my judo, I'll do it. If it's not, I won't.
Yes.
If it's good for my karate, I'll do it. If it's not, I won't. Be wholehearted towards that.
Exactly.
I think that's the best part that's the most valuable advice I would give to a beginner. I think the other part of it is that may not sustain you in terms of your martial journey going forward as we progress. The advice I would give to a practitioner or of the way in the middle or maybe towards the end of a degree of mastery would be to always maintain a beginner's mind. Always have a beginner's mind as you progress. That is critically important, and have the endurance to go the distance and stay the course of the martial way. See, this isn't gladiatorial. This is a warrior lifestyle. It's very different. There's honor, there's loyalty, there's benevolence, there's compassion. The Core Bushido, it's all part of that. So when we are talking about what happens when you first get in, that's great. You jumped in the water. Now swim and mature yourself so that you always maintain a beginner's mind and you're not afraid to test yourself and go out and be a beginner in another art. That's important. I remember one time I did a practice after finishing boxing. I was like, okay, let me try savate. So just to try it, and it was a great experience. It was something new. It was related to the boxing, but it was.
Where'd you find savate?
I actually went to a savate clinic in New York, New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, and I think it was who was the Salem Asli, I think is. I'm forgive me if I'm butchering his name. Salem. I've learned that beware of Frenchmen with pointy shoes.
Yeah. French foot fighting, the art of French foot fighting,
Yeah.
deadly.
Yeah, that one clinic, that one seminar, to get exposed to that, changed my perspective on how I view things in its entirety.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's the close of this interview. I thank you very much for taking the time out for this interview, and I just want you to know how much I truly appreciate you. I respect your skill. I respect you as a person, and we are friends for life.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for being here. And it's an honor to have you present. Thank you.
Another episode of Martial Insight and Advice in the Books. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification button so you get notified when new content hits the channel. Also, check out my sponsor, Custom Merch. Look them up on Instagram. That's CUZTOM Merch. And I'll see you on the other side.